Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be joined by Jordan Ring. He's the founder of Spectre Press, and he is just a phenomenal storyteller. And his whole background is really interesting. So I can't wait to ask you questions about that. But he's a ghostwriter and book coach and has a lot to share, not only about the industry, but we're going to talk about the origin story of what got him into this work. And then how is it that he's helping authors who might not have all of the words within them? How is he helping them pull that story through? And then also, what are these invisible blocks that he sees whenever he's working with these different authors? So thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. And yes, so first question is, what got you into ghostwriting? Can you tell us a little bit about your background or whatever you feel open to sharing? Because I know you're living in a whole other country. So lots to go in here.
Yeah, lots to dive into. Candace, thank you so much for having me. I love talking about this stuff, and I'm excited to dive into it with you. So thank you so much for having me. Um, my origin story, where I got my start as a writer and ghostwriter. I started writing my first book about 10 years ago now, which is shocking to me that it's been 10 years, but it has been 10 years. I was working in a retirement community at the time with my wife. We were working as co-managers in a retirement community. So I was working most of the day in that job, and then starting on the side as my side hustle to say, okay, maybe I could write a book. I've never really considered this, but I want to do it. I dove into that and wrote it, made all the mistakes, having the thought that, okay, just because I wrote the book, I'm going to be a New York Times bestseller. As soon as the book pops out, I'll do a little bit of marketing, and then I'll be able to quit my job, work as just an author. That was obviously not the case.
Okay.
So made some mistakes and had some, unrealistic expectations with that. But I did it. I did it on the side, and I kept working at it. And even while we were working at the retirement community, I wrote my second book, and then I wrote my third book. And I just kept putting time into it. And the more I did it, the more I fell in love with the process. And eventually I wrote my fifth book, Volcanic Momentum. And I gained momentum writing that book, for lack of a better word, just to say it. I gained momentum in my writing progress. And that book sold over 10,000 copies.
Yeah,
And
amazing.
yeah,
Wow.
and I said, okay, I can do this, not only for myself, but hey, I can do this for other people as well. So um, I don't care about the copies as much. For me, it's the chance to change a life and to tell a story. Like, and I don't say that I say that honestly. I say it in terms of I want books have changed my life, and we'll get into that too. That's one of your later questions, I think. But books have changed my life, and I want to give that back through my writing. And I know that other people have incredible stories to tell. And my books, the ones I write under my name, are not going to reach everybody.
Right.
That everybody has a specific book or a specific person, a specific story that will unlock something inside of them. So that's kind of my origin story, and also bleeds in a little bit to why I do what I do. So
Yeah, well, and I think you're saying something that I hope other people will hear, because this is relevant not only for social media, like when you're putting out social content, if you're a creator, any type of creation process, could be an author, could be an artist, and we will hit the message will hit and resonate with whoever it's meant to do that for. And that's something that
yes.
we forget, is that somebody can write something that's so similar and it's just 5 words difference and it hits a different person a different way, right? And so never to discredit the message that we're wanting to put out there, because let's be real, like almost every single concept has basically came forward, but you always have your unique ability to share that story. And so, okay, so working in a retirement community, I'm really curious to know what sparked you to write the first book. And what is the first book about? Let me ask that question too, just briefly, like out of curiosity.
Yeah, the first book was kind of my memoir of sorts in terms of losing weight after college. It was kind of a health and fitness focused book. And it was like, here's what I did after college to lose weight. And there was a lot of simple tactics. But I
Mhm.
remember the takeaway that I took, the takeaway from that book was that people commented and said, Jordan, it feels like you're just sitting down and talking with me. So doing that book helped me figure out and develop my writing style, which is my personal writing style, and it changes when I work, obviously, when I ghostwrite for someone. But for me, I want the person that is reading my book to feel like they're sitting down next to me on the couch having a conversation. And I'm not above them in any way. I'm not the world's leading expert in this. Here is just some things I've learned. Here's my story. And if you can relate to it, great. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you're hitting something that I want to ask about here in a second. It's just that we all have a different writing style. And I think
Yeah.
that where we can get caught up is writing something in the energy almost of someone else. So like we try to make it too much like this person or that person. And while yes, we were all taught in, all of our writing classes how to structure things, we again bring that unique twist or way in which we communicate into our writing. I think it's so, what kind of, so to go from being an author where you're writing your own work and being a ghostwriter where you're writing and helping write for others, what bridged that connection? Because I think it takes a very like unegoic person to be able to help somebody author a book because you're literally nowhere on the cover. And so like you know what I mean? So kind of walk us through, I guess let me back up and say, what is a ghostwriter and what led you into becoming a ghostwriter?
Yeah, so I think everyone has their own like exact definition of what a ghostwriter is and what a ghostwriter does. For me, it's someone who collaborates with you to help you get your book out there. Usually, like you said, we're not on the cover, we're behind the scenes, we're helping you share your message. And where some people have had an issue in the past or have had a thought like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that, someone doing the work for me. It's not what it is. I do the heavy lifting of the writing, so the person sharing the ideas doesn't have to sit down and do that. I do that because I love it. It's so collaborative in nature that I always try to make my clients feel like you're going to be involved in this as much or as little as you want. Some people say, okay, I'm going to give you a couple hours a week. That's more than enough. Other people say, no, I want to see the draft. I want to be involved. I want to give feedback and answer questions. And the more collaborative in nature, the better. For me, that's what ghostwriting is. It's collaboratively writing a book, but also taking the pain away from it. Because not everyone likes to sit down and write. Like I enjoy going to a cafe on a Friday night and saying no to other fun things and sitting in a Starbucks and writing for 3 hours. I'm weird. I love that. And that's fine. Let me do that and let me do that heavy lifting part. And then we as the team can have the conversation. Always record those over Zoom or whatever the people want to use. I usually use Zoom, but the medium doesn't matter. Just recording and having a conversation. So I don't know if that answers your question on bridging the gap necessarily, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you found that you had a way in which to pull this information out of yourself. And I know in our conversation, you said one of your key ways that you stay like relative to the energy of like, basically writing in general is that you make sure that you publish your own work. And I don't remember the cadence, but you make sure that you continue that process. And so I'm assuming that that's kind of what led you into wanting to help others really write that message was you found the process, you found the way to kind of like gather the information just enough to put it out there into their work. Is that right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, exactly. Because finishing a book is very hard. It's a challenge. I faced that when I wrote my first book. So this is a lot. Some people they think 50,000, 60,000 words for a book, that's a lot of work. That's going to take a lot of time, and it does. But when you have a process, when you have a way of thinking about it from point A all the way to point Z, you can make it. It's never going to be easy, but you can make it fun and easier. And that's what I've been able to help people do. And once I had that process kind of figured out, and of course I continue to refine it. Like you said, I'm always writing my own book. I have the outline started for my next book that I'm probably going to write and publish next year. I've already started, not launched a podcast that's related to this as well, as far as doing research for it. So for me, having a process that is continually refined, because there's so much that always there's so much that always will change in the marketing world, whereas a lot stays the same in terms of how can we get, how can we get a book together? How can we build the structure and start with something that will help us get to the end?
Yeah, because another part of your services is really helping people take, their raw ideas, get it into a compelling book, and then actually lead that into what their work is, correct? So you
Mm-hmm.
got to help them take the book and help it complement the business that they're operating, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the person that's best suited to work with me has a business already, something aligned. Because I'm very free to share with people that when you write your first book, it's gonna be very difficult to break even on that if you're just talking about royalties.
Mm-hmm.
And that's especially so if you work with me as a ghostwriter, but also if you're a CEO founder, your time is valuable. And
Right.
if you're going to do it on your own, we all know that writing a book takes a while. Someone even said once, writing a book takes at least 500 hours. And
Mm-hmm.
that's also how long it takes ghostwriters too. Maybe we cut down on that a little bit because we have a process, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still a long process of research and interviews and working on that. So yeah, if you're the type of person that already has a business that the book can kind of slide into and help and enhance what you already have, if you're already going on podcasts, if you already have some primary offer, it is a great way to just share the message. And I know I'm answering that like maybe a deeper question, but for multiple reasons, because
Yeah.
as you're doing the process, you get to know your process a lot better. Even doing a podcast interview like this, I'm learning about my process, right? Talking to you, but
Mm-hmm.
it's accelerated when you're putting a book together because you're forced to sit with those ideas and think critically. Even if you have someone help you as a ghostwriter, you're still thinking about your ideas. Okay, is this good? Is this valuable? Is this story something that people find interesting? You get to test that through that process, and it's rewarding. But you're also going to end up with a book that you can give to people and is only going to help you grow your business,
Yeah.
and in a variety of ways.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like I think I guess I want to ask, like, why are you so passionate about helping them achieve that? Like, what is that driving force?
Yeah, I mean, the driving force for me is that books changed my life.
Mm.
And now that, once that happened, I've been obsessed with books ever since. I was just talking to my wife this afternoon. I was like, this is the kind of my life with books every day. I wake up and I read. And
Okay.
then what I go to work and I write books. And then I also read books that are related. I go and have lunch and I'm listening to a book. I go walk around Lisbon and I'm either thinking about a book that I'm writing or listening to a book. And of course, I'm reading a book before bed. So literally obsessed, probably maybe even a little addicted to books in general. But for me, it's not even just that. It's the fact that books I know can change lives. I've had people tell me, Jordan, your book came to me at the right time. Same thing for my clients and their books. And there's just so much more power in what a book can do for you than a simple Google search or asking ChatGPT how to do something. It's so much more human and impactful and valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's going anywhere. I think that's going to stay for a while at least.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as somebody who loves the writing process myself, it's, there's something that we place into our words when we're writing. Like as somebody who's a holistic practitioner, of course, I'm going to say energy because it's literally
Yep,
us pouring our energy into this work.
it is.
Um, and that's one of the things that we give to each other is that, again, just like we've had our experiences, we can help people really move through something. They don't feel so isolated or alone anymore because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm reading this over here. Plus all of like, I'm a huge book nerd. Like I have so many physical books. I usually do the audio and the physical. So I'm definitely supporting the authors. But
Yep.
it's such a beautiful thing that we have the opportunity to, like, I even remember going to the library. I loved checking out books from the library. Like there was never a moment where I haven't enjoyed, while I do love audiobooks because of the ease in which, and when the author does the audio, that is my preference. But
Yes.
anyway, okay. So, what I know we kind of heard who you know really works well with you. But is there anything you want to add to that? Like who, like if they're looking for somebody and you're the perfect fit, what does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So I'm working with people that fit kind of what we described earlier of being a CEO or a founder or a coach, or you're working on something, or you have a product already, um, and you're at that point where you say, okay, I want to get some of these stories written down, and often it's the case that people that come to me have people telling them, hey, you should write a book, you should really get this down. Not always the case, because sometimes people don't talk about that as much. They don't think about like, okay, I want to write a book one day. But they're coming to me saying, okay, I believe and I know this will help my business grow. Because yeah, I'm a nonfiction ghostwriter. I don't work in fiction yet. Maybe one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we're looking at. A book that can help you get speaking engagements, can help you just it's something that fits into what you're already offering in your business.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's again, it's an extension of you and your work, and it's like you know whenever you get to that place where you're like, I answer the same questions all the time, or I'm seeing these repeated patterns. Like it's just natural to want to like put it down in writing. You were probably
Yep.
like a scribe in a past life. I feel like because you love books so much.
Yeah.
Um, so
Probably, yeah, probably was. I could see that.
yeah. So how did ghostwriting really bring you into a life of freedom? Because I remember learning that you and your wife just moved to Portugal, and I mean it wasn't like you just moved there like out of a whim, but you had this passion and goal to get there. And so what was it really just you leaning into knowing what your worth is and knowing what you're good at that really got you there? Like what do you feel was that catalyst moment for you?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good question, and it's one I've definitely thought of and even wrestled with.
Mhm.
What's the ultimate goal? What am I working towards? And I think with like being the more we called ourselves digital nomads for a while, even though we were only digital nomads for a brief time before the pandemic struck, and then we
Oh,
ended up staying in Portugal. So digital nomads, but also just kind of much more like just expats who are trying to be digital nomads. But yeah, the shift for us really was believing in ourselves and believing that we could find work that was remote and really dive into it and really do a good job, right? Like obviously that's a big part of if you're going to have success as someone who's not doing the typical 9 to 5. It's
mhm.
believing, like you said, believing in your worth and working your butt off to get there and to to really help people with what you're helping them with, right? Like it's
Wow.
not just okay, I'm going to write a book for someone at the bare minimum and just get their book out there, and then it's going to be what it's going to be. No, it's really diving in, listening to their stories, and making sure I stick with them until that book is great, right? And it or whatever I was working, on with them at the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah. Well, and what I'm hearing you say that you haven't said necessarily is that you're coming from that heart centered space of really wanting to deliver the message. And also just knowing that, like, this is what you're here to do is help, like, be that muse for people to, like, really get their message out, which is inspiring because I think that, so many people that follow me are entrepreneurs. They're kind of in that middle in between where they're like year 3, 5, where it's really hard.
Yep.
And it's that pivotal moment for them where a lot of times we want to give up, but it's like just keep going, keep showing up, do the work, because your passion will truly lead you to that ultimate purpose. And that purpose evolves, right? Um, but that leads me to ask you, like, what does success mean to you today, and how has that changed since your early days?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question because yes to everything you were just saying about
Mhm.
purpose.
Mhm.
Because it when you can align with purpose, you reach that deeper meaning. I mean, I've found that and all of the work I've done before being a ghostwriter and book coach. It's kind of like I don't know if this is a great fit. I don't know if this is perfect. Like I'm doing the work, I'm doing a good job, but it's not hitting that resonance of purpose, right?
Mhm.
Um, and ever since from the very first project I had as a ghostwriter, I told my wife, like, oh, this fits. This is what I really want to be doing. And wow, life gets amazing, and there's so much fulfillment when you can find that. And it's like you said too, it's not always going to be easy.
Mm-mm.
It's not always been easy for me to do this work, but it's so rewarding and fulfilling to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answers your question, but that
Yeah.
was just, it's so much like purpose for me. If one can find it, is everything, because then it makes all the other areas of life so much more, I would say fulfilling, but it just feels right, for lack of a better way to say it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and even I think you posted about the other day. Well, it's probably a couple weeks ago with the move, but you were talking about even just like your balcony, and I think that you find more presence in your life whenever you find that aligned purpose, and you make space for, even if you're busy. Like, let's be real,
Mhm.
entrepreneurship is like one of the hardest things we ever do.
Yeah.
And it does require so much from us, right? It requires a lot, but it's not hard because we enjoy it. But what I found so much, like in your, like why I connected with you is like, you are bringing those elements of your life into, what you're talking about. Like, yeah, this is what success looks like to me. It's like you just said, I wake up, I read, I go and I write, and then I read some more, and I'm doing this. And you're getting to have that quality time with your wife, and just the way that you present entrepreneurial life is really inspiring, because it asks us to remember the presence. Like, I have this sticker that I actually created a long time ago, but it is like, I'm in the present moment, no need to rush, and it just
Oh,
sits
I
right,
love that. I love
yeah,
that.
it just sits right there so that I remember like, to slow down every once in a while. But that's one of the things that I appreciate about you, and even your writing on LinkedIn, where you're sharing with people like how to just be yourself and not overthink it, and be responsible with your usage of AI and all this stuff. So, what would you like to add to that?
I mean, it just made me think, like, yes, that's important on LinkedIn, and yes, it's important for books as well to be yourself. But how much more important is that to be like yourself in general, in real life, and in these interactions, and to be willing to share like those deeper parts of yourself. Doesn't mean we have to be crying on this call, Candace, because we both shared like a deeply emotional thing. Like, if we feel led to, great, but it doesn't mean we have to do that. But
Yeah.
just being willing to be vulnerable, like, you never know when sharing something can impact someone, or when it can connect with someone. And
Mhm.
that's one thing I'm always telling my authors, and some people fight me on this, and I fight back. But like, hey, we need to dive in. Like, you need to tell me your stories. I need to almost become your therapist, because we're gonna pull those out. Does not mean we have to share all those stories, even if they're in the first draft, of course, right? But
Yeah.
being willing to share those makes so much difference for a book. But I see it for social media posts as well, especially in this world of AI taking over a lot of things, and making those changes. The more human that we can make our posts, and the better we are at understanding ourselves, and then being that human, and being someone people remember and connect with and like, the better
Mhm.
we're going to do, and the more AI proof we're going to be, because AI is never going to be able to do that. It's never going to be able to be us. Hopefully, I know it
Right.
can, like, some voices and stuff. Yeah, CrossFit. Everything I'm saying could be not be true, but this is all from a very, very wishful thinking potentially, but very hopeful stance of that human connection. And I think people shy away from that, but I think it's really like, with all the changes that are coming, it's the thing, it's the avenue to kind of really dive into. What do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, you're
You're
speaking my
me too.
language. Yeah, yep. I was already thinking, because I was literally about to say the very similar thing, in that like with all of the transitions, and we see all like, I was thinking about it even from a video standpoint of like how important it's going to be for us to have like less editing, more raw, because
Yeah,
people literally can't tell if it's you on these fake videos or in the writing, and the
yeah,
writing's getting a little bit better, but it's like, but that's the thing, is like there's something that AI will never have, hopefully, our
yeah,
stories, right? Our stories, it might, who knows? But and to have that authenticity is what we're really craving anyway. And I think 2020 really amplified this, right? Like when
yeah,
we had to really isolate and we were really shifting everything, it amplified our recognition of how isolated we were. And I think that's why we're seeing this really huge, like they're calling it an epidemic of loneliness, because we were just more present to it. Like, I'm disconnected so much from my family that I'm just now recognizing that Fluffy is sick. My husband and I are fighting. My kids are miserable. Like, there's all these things that came out during the pandemic because we lacked presence. And then we started to realize how disconnected we were from our life, right? So there were a couple of layers here to all of it. But I think, again, the more authentic we can be, the more that we're going to be able to really reach the people that we're trying to reach. I'm not sure if I froze. Did I freeze or did you freeze? I might have frozen. Hopefully we will figure this out. If anything, I really have appreciated this conversation today, because I know that Jordan has such a huge heart and passion for helping authors bring their book to life. So if he's not able to come back, that's okay. I always ask them, like, what's the one thing? Oh, there he is. Yay. What's the one thing that you hope people will get from our time together? So I'm really hopeful he'll be able to come back on. But that's the biggest thing that I hope you guys are taking out of all of these calls, are that, the authenticity is mattering, how we're approaching all of our conversations and really getting to know people. It's going to make a huge difference over the next several years. So I don't know what you caught, Jordan, because I had the same issue in the beginning when I was recording these. So I would like pop in and I would be like, I'm so sorry. But how did any of that resonate with you? Maybe. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, it kicked me off for a minute. I think we're back.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
I don't know what happened.
that's all good. So what I'd like to close with is just, if there's one thing that you hope authors can learn from you today, what would that thing be? Well, I think we're losing Jordan, but that's okay. He can answer in the comments. So again, I hope this conversation has really supported you if you're an author, or if you have questions and would like to work with Jordan. Just make sure to reach out. I'll make sure to leave his information. And again, I appreciate all of the support for these lives. It has been incredible to get to not only bring unique perspectives here, but to get to share in community at the same time.